a lot of men, I think that when they hit 40 is kind of the pivotal point of where they start really feeling their age. And they just kind of chalk it up to, well, I'm just getting older, but it doesn't have to be that way.
As I get older, I find that the way that medicine treats our ailments is by medicating them. Today, I want to offer you an alternative form of medicine that instead of medicating a problem, tries to deal with it naturally before it becomes a problem. We're going to have my doctor on today, Dr. Jason Black, and talk about the various forms of alternative medicine, what they bring to your overall health. Today, you're going to walk away with another way of looking at how to stay healthy as you age through the stress bubble and beyond.
So the three things that you can do to boost your testosterone is doing.
Hey guys, I'm excited today to talk to you guys about my special friend is in here. He is my primary physician, and I got to tell you a story. As I shared with you earlier, one of my goals was to have a six-pack by 60, and I will tell you in May of this year, I took my shirt off at a men's event, and I was rocking abs. They were 60-year-old abs. They weren't 20-year-old abs, but my people could see those. And I'm not going to show you a picture because I think I believe in modesty, but I attribute that to three things: diet, exercise, and Dr. Black. So we've got one of those here today, Dr. Black, and he is my primary physician specializing in functional medicine, which is different than traditional medicine. And my goal today is to expose you to something you've never seen before. So Jason, it's great to have you on the show today.
I love being here, and I'm glad to share this with you.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to learn more, and I think we've got a lot of guys who have treated every symptom with a medication. And I know you have a little bit different take on that. So why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and how what you do is different, how functional medicine is different than what we would call traditional.
So I've been in practice for about 23 years. So I started off where, I did have primary care. So I had a primary care practice. And when I first started, I started working on more subspecializing in pain. So more natural ways to kind of address pain. And then I did that through the years. And I was, when I started, I was 30, and then by the time I hit 40, I had 2 clinics and I had 35 employees, and I didn't feel like I was 30. I definitely didn't feel like I was 20. And so I started looking into testosterone, and I had my levels checked. My levels were like around 250. And so for those of you who have checked your testosterone, that's really low. So I, got a little bit educated on it. Went to send a friend of mine who was a doctor. He put me on some testosterone. I started with shots, and it transformed my life. I mean, it really helped me feel like my moods were better, my sleep was better, my energy was better, my focus was better, my workouts were better. But what it really helped me do is it really helped me kind of figure out how to have more clarity so I could make better choices and just decide how I wanted to live the rest of my life. And so from there, I kind of, started, having better workouts. I started having better sleep and all those things. So starting with the testosterone was, something that really kind of helped me a ton. I think it really kind of helped me, have some clarity. And then I started going down this path of researching as far as like, why do men have low testosterone? How come that we have such lower testosterone than our fathers did, our grandfathers did? And as you kind of look at that, and as I kind of studied it, and I, talked to other providers that were doing this for a long period of time, it has to do a lot with our inflammation and our stress. And I think we live in a very inflamed society, and I think that we take a lot of stress home. We don't recover well. I mean, we end up not eating well, and some of us end up, maybe consuming alcohol too much, and then, we kind of quit moving, and so we just kind of get into this whole cycle. And all of those things that cause more inflammation have an impact on lessening your testosterone, because what happens is, you end up generating, you have all this cortisol that is taking care of all this inflammation, and you're not recovering from that. So in order for us to repair our cortisol levels, we have to make sure that we're actually getting really high quality sleep. If we're not getting high quality sleep, our cortisol levels aren't replenishing, so we don't have those throughout the day. And then what happens is the body breaks testosterone down to make more cortisol, and so you just end up getting in this deficit. And so that's kind of that's the short of low testosterone and why we have it. So as I started kind of getting into studying that more, and helping men, a lot of men, I think that when they hit 40 is kind of the pivotal point of where they start really feeling their age. And they just kind of chalk it up to, well, I'm just getting older, but it doesn't have to be that way. So that's kind of, what I kind of focused on. And from there, as life kind of has transformed, I kind of take more of a functional medicine approach where, men come in to see me and the testosterone is one piece, but it's also like, what are they doing in their life? Because just giving somebody testosterone is not going to maintain six-pack abs, right?
Yes.
So they have to make sure that they're actually putting in the work. What it can do is give them a little bit of mental clarity, motivation, so they actually can do those things. So, yeah. So, go ahead.
Well, no, that's so. I'm not going to share with these guys the entire journey, but I will say I came into you, and I think my testosterone was 257.
Yep.
So we did go on testosterone, and we've been kind of adjusting that to make the levels right. I think we got a good balance now, but that increased my drive. I feel like it increased my metabolic composition, like processing stuff better, sleep better at night. I was taking naps almost every day. I really don't do that anymore. It really did change. And the thing for me is it brought the sex drive back, because there was a season where I was like, I'm just kind of not into it. And so when you talk about functional medicine, what I'm hearing you say, if I'm wrong, tell me. So I was at the doctor for high blood pressure. I've got some kidney disease stuff, which you know about. And I have medical, I'm taking medicine, but it's gone down since I've been seeing you. I'm taking less and less. Traditional medicine is reacting to what my body has done negatively. But when I see you, the functional component of medicine that you practice seems to be more proactive instead of reactive. Is that accurate?
That's very well to describe it, because I think that how I look at health and a functional medicine doctor looks at health is, how do the sum of the parts make up the whole, right? So when you see a conventional doctor, and I believe in, I have a lot of friends of mine that are mainstream medicine, and they help do a lot of amazing things, but they look at it it's a disease model, right? So you come in and you have kidney disease, we're just going to give you this for that kidney disease. And then if you start developing something else where you start getting swelling in your legs from your kidneys not functioning, we're going to give you this. And so it's kind of a disease model. So a functional medicine model is a proactive model. So it's looking at optimizing your hormones, right? So when I first, for example, when I first started looking at testosterone, and this is probably 10 years ago, testosterone was considered to be low, under 400. And then that low number was under 300. And then before you know it, now it's under 200. So they just keep lowering the bar, right? And so, testosterone, I have some men that naturally are 800 to 900. And I have a theory as far as why these guys are able to maintain that. But most of them, I have guys in their 30s that have a 300 testosterone. And so if you look at studies and you look at maintaining testosterone, if you can keep it between your total T, between 800 and 1,000, that's optimum for maintaining a lot of, so you don't get a lot of other diseases. So there was a study that I always reference.
Disease prevention corresponds with testosterone levels.
Yes, and as testosterone decreases, I look at that as being you have more inflammation. So as it decreases more inflammation, that inflammation could be because of you having pain, because of your poor nutrition, could be because of the multiple surgeries, but it could also be mental emotional stress. You don't like your job, your marriage, your relationship isn't like what it should be. You're just not happy. Maybe spiritually you're not connected. I don't know. It could be a lot of different things, right? And so one of the things I treat a lot of firefighters, right? And a lot of these firefighters.
Yeah, you've told me that before.
Oh, a lot of firefighters. And so these firefighters are great because they come in and they talk health all the time. And you would see a guy like you, right, who's very fit, and I wouldn't expect their testosterone to be like 200, 300. But a lot of it has to do is when you start talking to them, there's a lot of mental emotional stress. There's a lot of stress that goes on with their job. They see a lot of different things. Their sleep cycles are affected, right? And so, just because they look a certain way, you don't have to have a bunch of belly fat here and then, carrying 20 extra pounds or more to have low testosterone. a lot of it can be just your mental, emotional kind of well-being. And if that's being affected spiritually, you're not happy with what you're doing, and you know what I mean. You're that can have
not
an
getting
impact.
sleep, which is
and you're not getting
part of
good
the
sleep.
job
That's
description
part of
for
the
a
job,
firefighter.
100%. And so these guys, you're not going to tell somebody, well, you just can't get up at night, because that's usually when their calls happen, right? Yeah. So a lot of what I do is, from a functional medicine perspective, is just making sure that I'm maintaining their health. That I'm helping support their body so that inflammation, whatever is occurring, they're actually able to repair things correctly. When you look at studies, if you were to go into Medscape, which is a common medical area that we look at when we look at studies, the number one thing testosterone does is it repairs the cardiovascular system. Blood vessels, which are in your brain, your heart.
I've noticed that.
Yeah.
I can go longer on things. Yeah. I've noticed that.
So you need blood vessels, because we need oxygen, and we need to breathe, and we need to repair, and all that stuff. And so that testosterone helps with that process. But you can live without testosterone. So that's why it's not in the conventional medical realm. It's not like people don't put a lot of weight into it, because they're like, well, we can live without it. You can actually just obliterate your testosterone and still function. But if your cortisol level, which is your stress hormone, you can't live without that. If cortisol is crashes, your blood pressure is going to drop, and you're going to die. So your body naturally will cycle through testosterone to make cortisol, and that's why we get low testosterone. Does that make
low testosterone and fat?
Yeah.
Because high cortisol equates to fat.
It equates to fat.
Belly fat, yeah.
Yep, belly fat, insulin resistance, right? Ends up, it can even affect diabetes, those types of. So if you're running around stressed, you just have all this cortisol circulating, and you're not replenishing that, your body's just going to cycle through testosterone, and that's where you get the deficit. So a lot of maintaining testosterone naturally has to do with so is your diet clean? Are you eating kind of, and I'm very pro more keto type diet, low carbohydrate. Carnivore is great if you can do it. Intermittent fasting. So the three things that you can do to boost your testosterone is doing keto, doing 1 or 2 days of an intermittent fast, and doing just 30 minutes of some kind of resistance training 3 times a week. 90 minutes a week, actually the studies have shown, will help improve testosterone. And I've seen people do those 3 things, and in a month's time, I can see their numbers go 200 to 300 points naturally. Okay. Yeah.
Now, is that okay? Here's a question. So I'm at the time of this recording, I'm 59.
Yep.
And I know you're over 50 now, aren't
53.
you? Okay. So my testosterone was at under 200. So was yours. Now I'm over 800.
Yep. So is mine.
Okay. So Yes. So is there an age thing? Is there hey, at 60 you should be at 400, or does the level of testosterone correlate to age?
It does not. No.
Okay,
I think it's going to decrease over time. But I'll give you a story. What profession do you think that I see that have their testosterone the highest? I mean, this has been very consistent.
The highest level of testosterone, I would say, construction.
Okay, so loggers.
Okay.
No. So my loggers, genuinely, I have a guy that's 70. His testosterone's 900. Okay, I've seen that multiple times, and I've seen, and these are guys that their lifestyle is not as conducive. I'm talking about doing keto, low carbohydrate, not a lot of alcohol. I'm talking, those things kind of will boost testosterone. I have guys that still consume these types of things. My whole theory on that is these guys are outside, but if you know a logger is like a salt of the earth human being. They live for the moment, they're in the present, and they're just a special,
moving.
And they're moving, right? Yeah, 100%. And I think that, is a testament to the way that we probably used to be. I mean, we used to we would farm. There were times that we would hunt. You share with me, you're a hunter, right?
Yeah.
You're out there hunting and moving, and I don't know. There's something connected with the earth, right? I mean, not to get kind of weird, but you know what I'm saying, though? It's a manly thing that you're doing.
Experiencing all your senses are heightened. You're suffering. You're dopamine. You're getting dopamine dumps from the sunset
and it's all natural. All that stuff and that's nature, and that's something that we can't replace, right? And so I think that I think in this day and age, we live in a society where we're indoors, we're in our car, we're just running around. We're always thinking about we're not living in the moment as much. We're thinking about like, okay, I need to get to, Jim Ramos's podcast, right? I need to like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
And then we sit.
And I'm sitting in the car, and then I come here, and I'm like, okay, I'm here, and then what am I doing later? I've got a soccer game I've got to go to later, right? And so we're always kind of thinking about the future. And I think the biggest thing, like, that, I don't know, not to get off subject, but I think a lot of people, I think living in the moment and being present every day is something that's really important to just general health, not just testosterone, but like your just overall health as a human being.
That's good. Okay, so okay. I have had people tell me, oh, you're taking testosterone?
Yeah.
Oh, that causes cancer, that causes this. So there are people is that because they haven't been educated?
Yeah. Yeah, you need to do it safely.
Are there studies that say, hey, this stuff?
Well, you just need to do it safely, right? And so I think one of the things that you and I have talked about is like blood work, right?
Yeah.
And so you need to make sure that you're getting the blood work. If you're getting your blood work checked, you need to make sure that the person checking it knows what to look for, right? And so the biggest thing is prostate's the biggest concern that we have for like, cancer, that type of thing. So testosterone can help protect against aggressive prostate cancer, but if you have prostate cancer that's occurring, you don't want to go on testosterone because that can make it worse. Okay. So yes, you need to be cautious in making sure that you have the proper screenings. We all should get a prostate exam. We should all look at our PSA, make sure the blood work's being done. The biggest thing that actually has an impact on your prostate from testosterone is estrogen. So as men, estrogen, we think of, those of you who know what estrogen is, it's like we think of it in women and it helps with their menstrual cycle and have babies and those types of things. But as men, we get estrogen from testosterone. It kind of helps us keep our bones strong, and it helps repair our tendons, right? Mm-hmm. But too much estrogen, like if you're taking too much testosterone and you're converting it to estrogen, that can have an effect on tissue in a negative way. So it can make your prostate grow.
Your breasts grow.
Yep. Your chest grow. It can make you have water retention, and it can make you moody, make you cry. Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense now.
Yeah. So, watch dog commercials, and your next thing you know, you're crying.
Hallmark. Okay, so back to this proactive versus reactive. I have found that with my traditional doctors that I see, mainly it's for the mainly it's for the high blood pressure specialist.
Yep.
They will do a blood test to analyze what medicines they want to implore.
Right.
So, but for you, we're doing blood tests to find out where my levels are low to increase natural levels.
Correct. So when you look at testosterone, you look at your total testosterone, you look at your free testosterone, and there's something called sex hormone binding globulin. So you could have a high testosterone. So let's say for patients to optimize, I look at an 800 to 1,000 total. Okay, so we look at that. You want to make sure that your free testosterone is active, and that basically is dependent on something called sex hormone binding globulin. Too much sex hormone binding globulin can be elevated, and that can have an impact on this total testosterone not really being as high as you think it is. And so you have to make sure that you're kind of understanding the whole picture. Does that make sense? And so I look at that. I look at insulin. Okay, so I make sure that somebody doesn't have too much insulin, so insulin resistance, and we can talk GLPs if we want to talk that, or peptides. Okay, but we can talk about that. So you have to look at, like, okay, you want to look at ferritin, right? You want to look at iron. So you just want to make sure, like, okay, so is this person, like, you don't want too much ferritin stores because that's inflammatory in the heart. And if you have too high of ferritin, a lot of times somebody may have sleep apnea, okay, which we can kind of talk about, but it's really important to have that assessed. But you need to look at all of those levels metabolically. And I look at just regular standard blood tests. I just do routine blood work. And the reason I do routine blood work is I want to be able to talk to your physician so they understand the language, right? If I'm doing these other things where they don't understand the language, it's like me speaking, French and somebody speaking Spanish, right? So I keep it like consistent. So that way I can talk to your urologist or your cardiologist, and we're all on the same page. So that
happened yesterday.
Yeah, right.
He was like, "Oh, your doctor said this." I go, "Where'd you get that?" He goes, "Oh, your other doctor." I go, "Oh, I didn't know you had that." Yeah. He's like, "Oh, your levels are here. Your GLP or your GFR."
GFR, yeah.
So let's talk about this.
All right.
So right now, GLP, is it GLPD?
So it's GLP-1.
GLP-1.
And there's like a bunch of different GLPs, but for all, they just
Should we just call it semaglutide?
They just call GLP-1. GLP-1
Okay.
encompasses everything.
So everybody's taking this, a lot of these people are doing GLP-1 for weight loss.
Yep.
A lot of controversy. Does a person microdose? Do they take larger doses? Do they lose 60 pounds? Do they lose 15%? Is it healthy for you? Some studies are saying that it may help frontal lobe dementia. Can you talk to us about GLP-1?
So GLP-1s have been in my practice for about 2 years or maybe a little bit longer. I started off with the GLP-1s. I was very anti for a long period of time because I saw anytime that I see things go through Hollywood, it's a marketing thing, and I kind of, it turns me off, right? And so that's what it was. It was like everybody in Hollywood was doing it, but then none of the diabetics could get it. And I'm like, okay, this is marketing 101. And anyways, I can kind of tell you a little bit about the scam that's going on right now, but I was very cautious. I had somebody who was a diabetic that couldn't get it. There was a shortage on people getting it, and so I actually was able to get it, and I wanted to try it, and I took 5 patients, and we all tried it. It curbed my sugar cravings. Dr. Black had a hidden sugar craving where I love gummy bears, and I love Sour Patch Kids, and I thought that there was no problem with that. It took my cravings away. It was pretty amazing. And then I saw patients who not only lost weight, but I saw their blood pressure normalized, their pain got better, their sleep got better, and for the first time in 10 years, I actually saw them smile. And I was like, okay, there's something bigger to this whole GLP thing. So I went and I kind of learned about it. I went to a peptide conference, which I've been to twice. And the peptide conference was all about these GLPs and how we don't, it's not just about like it affecting your insulin and affecting your glucagon in your liver, because that's kind of how we think about it communicating. It kind of slows down your digestive tract so you can assimilate the food, and it has an impact on making your insulin really sensitive to sugar. Okay, so insulin's like it's like a key that unlocks the lock so the door can open and blood sugar can go in. That's kind of how it works, right? When we have insulin resistance, instead of having one key, we have 10. And so we can't figure out which key to unlock the door, and so that makes the resistance happen. You can't assimilate. Does that make sense? Totally. The blood sugar. So the GLPs make that like super streamlined, right? And then it lowers glucagon, so your hunger is kind of, and you're hungry for sugar. So that's how we used to think about it. But it's bigger than that. What they found is that you have these GLP receptors all over the brain and everything, and that actually as you're on it for 90 days, when you're on it for 90 days, it has a long-term effect on your dopamine levels, which dopamine is like something that we kind of deplete like with stress and those types of things. So it starts having an impact on people who are drinking, has an impact on people who have substance abuse issues. It has an impact on moods, right? So the GLPs kind of we think about as a food-related type of thing, but it sort of kind of covers a lot of different areas. And so, so some people will come in, and the first thing I'll do before I do testosterone is I need to get their diet under control. So I teach them how to intermittent fast, how to do keto, talk them about movement, 30 minutes 3 times a week. I put them on a GLP because all the GLP does is it's sort of like support. And if you do it at a very low dose, like a microdose, okay, you do it at a low dose, and if you can keep them at that low dose and you don't go up, you're not going to get the side effects. It's kind of how it works.
Okay, so now is a GLP, is that a pharmaceutical or is that natural?
It's a pharmaceutical. Okay, so very good question. So the GLP is a pharmaceutical, okay, but you have these receptors. That's a very good question. But you have these receptors. It's considered, it's considered a peptide. So peptides are just chains of amino acids. And so all a peptide is it has a certain sequence of amino acids that turns on or turns off things. So it's simulated by the body. You know, somebody's figured out how to turn that receptor on and off, right? A common peptide that is a very natural peptide is BPC-157.
Oh, I just got done with a regimen of that for my hip.
Yeah. So BPC-157 is a peptide. So that's actually made in, I think it's 13 or 14 amino acids long. So that's what the cells of your stomach and your digestive tract make to actually kind of help repair themselves, okay? So the BPC-157 helps to repair the cells. So it turns off inflammation and promotes healing. So you can do injections around your hip, you can do injections around your elbow, and it's going to stimulate the same healing process that it does in your gut.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how these things work.
Okay, so So listening to your definition of a peptide, that sounds like a natural.
It's a natural,
not a
yes.
pharmaceutical.
Yeah, it's more natural, but the BP, there's a gray area.
Yeah, it kind of, yeah.
It is a gray area. So so basically with, and I can't remember if the amino acid, I can't remember the number, if it's greater than like 30 amino acids, it becomes a pharmaceutical. That's the FDA, that's an FDA claim. I can't remember if it's 30 or 40. So it has to be under a certain amount, and then it's considered more natural.
So where would semaglutide fit in that? Is that?
Semaglutide is I can't remember how many. It's more than 30. I can't remember, but it's considered. Yeah. So you have to have a prescription for that. And so the interesting thing is people used to be able to get it. There was a supply issue, so you could get it from a compounding pharmacy for a period of time, and then the FDA said, okay, it's not a supply issue anymore. You can't get it from the compounding pharmacy. So millions of people were on this thing, and so now you have to get it directly from Eli Lilly or whatever, and so you can get it discounted for like the first, and this is kind of my understanding, you get it for the first 2 months at a very inexpensive rate, and then if you want to continue with Eli Lilly, it goes up like 5 or 6 times the cost.
Okay. Well, it's really interesting. I have found that functional medicine is fairly easy to understand once you understand terms.
Yes.
Because it's confusing, and one of the terms that's out there, and I'll wake up in the morning, I'll be sore because maybe I had too much sugar, or a couple pieces of pizza, and it seems like there is a correlation between inflammation and joint pain and your biodome, which they're now almost getting ready to say that's a whole nother organ on its own. Yeah. Can you talk to us about those things?
Well, okay, so let's talk about the sugar piece, because I think like a lot of people, I think sugar. I didn't realize how bad sugar was until I actually did the GLP, and I didn't realize how much. I had like candy in my drawer at work, had candy in the car, candy at home, and I didn't realize like how much candy. And I don't really do it anymore, and I'm not. I think the GLP kind of helped just change my mindset. Yeah. But sugar is poison, because I think it does have an impact on. You don't realize how much you have until you kind of don't have it, and then you realize like, wow, that's a lot of sugar, and it does have an impact on a lot of. It's going to have an impact on your gut, but it has a lot of impact on insulin. So if you're eating a lot of sugar, you're releasing a lot of insulin, and insulin is the inflammatory component. Yeah. Sugar by itself is not as bad. Yes, processed sugar and white sugar and all the crappy sugar we have is not great, but it's more like stimulating that insulin response that has an impact on that. Yeah.
So let's talk about gut health. Yeah. Like, how does gut health?
Gut health. No, it's fine. So
let's talk about gut health and its impact on cortisol levels and overall health.
So looking at like sugar and gut health, so your gut is basically, I don't know, some people call it the second brain, it could be the first brain. Mm-hmm. So it's always so your gut actually helps make serotonin. So serotonin is like that's what the pharmaceutical companies like use. If they give somebody Prozac or, something like that, they're antidepressants, they're trying to like keep serotonin cycling for longer periods of time so people feel happy, right? So your gut makes serotonin and it's constantly communicating with the brain. And so with the gut lining is only as thick as your eyelid. Okay, so it's very, very thin, right? So if you have a lot of inflammation in the gut, so if you have you have certain healthy bacteria that live in the small intestine, and you have certain ones that live in the large intestine. So there's this real estate that everybody kind of lives in. You got, people that live in the city, and then people live in the country, and that's just kind of how it is, okay? If that gets disrupted, it actually can have an effect on how you absorb things. So if people's diet's off and they're just eating high sugar, or they're eating lots of things, even carbonation, or lots of beer, right, where you have lots of yeast, and those types of, that's going to affect the biome of your gut, okay?
Biome, that's the word I was after.
Biome. So that's going to affect the biome, and that biome is going to cause inflammation, and that tiny thin layer, that eyelid layer of area that you're absorbing the nutrients can get inflamed, and so then you get particles that should go into the bloodstream, travel in there, and then that's going to cause joint pain and inflammation, brain fog, bloating, all the things that people just kind of assimilate with, like, oh, I'm just going to take a Tums, or, you know what I mean, an antacid or something like that, right? So so your gut is like, I mean, it's really important. I mean, you think about kids, you know, I think that's the most important thing with children is that, like, how we're raising them. Are they breastfed? And then how are we introducing food to them and making sure that they have the ability to kind of generate that healthy biome, so they have that healthy bacteria as they grow, and then their immune system grows. I mean, one of the biggest things that, you know, people have heard of acidophilus, right? I mean, that's like in yogurt, right? It's not active in yogurt, but that's like what makes yogurt. So acidophilus, actually, you get acidophilus from mom, right? And so that acidophilus, it stimulates your body to actually develop a natural immunity. So your body can actually recognize self from non-self.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's the importance of probiotics, right?
Yep.
And then if you're taking antibiotics, like, you're going to kill everything. And so that's why a lot of times, like, if a woman takes, you know, an antibiotic, they'll get a yeast infection. It's because they're just throwing off that biome and it can't naturally fight that off. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah. So
but it's really important. Yeah. So the biome of the gut is like super important for everything.
So, and I've been reading that they are getting close to calling the biome an actual organ.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with that. Yeah, because it pre-digests food and it helps with fatty acid metabolism, and, you know, and fatty acids are what kind of help the brain, right? And so you need to make sure that you're processing that stuff. I mean, one of the, you know, I do the blood work stuff that we kind of talked about for hormones.
Yeah.
But there's a GI health panel I do with the specialty lab up in Seattle, and it basically looks at the saliva in your mouth, and there's a couple stool samples that you'll send in, and I can tell how your pancreas is working. So are you making pancreatic enzymes to break down proteins? Do you have inflammation in your gut? Like, how is everything cycling through your mouth throughout the other end? And so you can actually see, like, you know, do you have a healthy immune system? Because yeah, if this isn't working, let's talk about functional medicine, right? You know, just going on testosterone, you know, maybe we need to fix this first, and that's why your body's so stressed. Because remember, low testosterone is equivalent to high inflammation.
Yes.
And that inflammation can be gut, it can be mental, emotional, it can be pain, you know, it could be a lot of different things, right? And so when we're looking at testosterone, you know, the basic thing that, you know, the three things that, you know, I tell people is, like, you know, low carbohydrate, movement, right? Intermittent fasting. Like, those things will help, but you have to look at the other aspects as far as, like, why you always ask why.
Okay, so you got me to another question.
Okay.
Low testosterone, high inflammation equals, this is a question, higher risk of dementia, heart disease. I mean, talk to me about
prostate
talk to me about
issue.
the risk of the inflammation's effect on society.
Right. Alzheimer's, like, I mean, brain, dementia. Yeah, that's the number one thing. Like, as testosterone starts dropping, like, dementia and Alzheimer's actually increase the risk for those things. Keeps going down further, then you're going to have, I have this chart at my office that you probably have seen.
I've seen it.
Then you have, like, prostate. It actually helps support the prostate. Now it's going to help prevent a lot of things because it has a repair on the blood vessels, right?
Yeah.
Cardiovascular disease, pre-diabetes, depression, fatigue. A lot of guys come in and they're like, hey, you know, I'm having some ED issues, right? I'm not performing the way I want to perform, and, you know, there's issues with, you know, et cetera, et cetera. And testosterone, really, for that to start affecting, is like below 300. And what I kind of tell these men is that by the time you're here, you have a lot of other things you should be worried about. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because, like, with diabetes, let's talk diabetes. People don't feel diabetes. They don't feel.
Yes.
They don't feel it, right? And so they don't know that eating sugar, because they don't feel like eating sugar doesn't give them pain necessarily. It's sort of like, diabetes is like the silent killer that's really hard to kind of address. But maintaining testosterone, you think about it, right? So, okay, so if low testosterone, high inflammation, well, if you have high inflammation, you have a cortisol problem, right? If you have a cortisol problem, then you have an insulin problem. I mean, that's kind of how it kind of works.
Yeah.
By the time testosterone's low, you have all these other things that have been going on for a period of time.
This is all making sense to me.
Yeah.
The inflammation, I think, realizing that the inflammation puts you in a whole nother category for illness.
Yes.
And sickness and pain.
Yep.
And so I want to transition a little bit here because so back in the 90s, 80s, 90s, something came out called stem cells, and at the time they were being procured from aborted fetuses.
Yep.
And I'm a pro-life.
And that's still happening.
Is that okay?
Still happening.
Okay.
So and a lot of that's coming from, outside of our country, and you have to be very careful. And a lot of these companies are here today, gone tomorrow.
Yes. So talk to me about the difference between, let's say, stem cells and exosomes.
Yep.
Because I'm still not able to sift. I'm like, are those synonymous? How are those different?
So,
and then with exosome therapy, where are those being procured?
So exosomes are part of a stem cell.
Okay.
Okay. So your stem cells, primarily, let's say the stem cells, like if you were to harvest, like if you and I, we could harvest our stem cells. So there are clinics that will take stem cells from bone marrow and then they'll grow them, right? The concern with that, okay, so the good news, if you're going to do that, you're using your own stem cells. Okay,
Yes.
so the problem with that is that a 50-year-old person's stem cells aren't as good as they were when they were in your 20s.
Yes.
Okay, so I think most people will agree with that. And so to get around that, people are getting stem cells from younger people, and most of those stem cells can come in the form of like the aborted fetuses and those types of things. Okay.
Which we categorically disagree with. I know you do too.
I do too. Yeah, I'm not into anything. I mean, when I kind of first got addressed, when I first got exposed to this, I was doing a lot of joint, and I still do a lot of joint, treat people for sports injuries and things like that. And I got introduced to these injections, and I didn't really understand what stem cells were, and I got these products, and then there was I had to send something to the FDA that I was doing a tissue sample, and then it kind of freaked me out, and I ended up throwing them all away because they came from some island in like the Caribbean or something like that, and I was like, okay, so I'm not even going to deal with that. So fast forward, I've gotten involved with an exosome group, and the exosomes are part of stem cells. These exosomes are lab grown. So I just kind of really I understood this, Jim. So I didn't really understand it fully until I'd been using this for a period of time. So they're harvested from an umbilical cord from not an aborted fetus, but one donor. Okay,
Live birth.
This is live birth. This was pre-COVID, so there's no COVID vaccine and no infection or anything like that. It's heavily screened. The exosomes that I have been lab grown, so they're able to, and I guess they do this in labs. Like, it's common to reproduce cells, and so this individual researcher has figured, he has an FDA trial actually happening with this, but he figured out how to grow these exosomes, which are part of the stem cell, and he figured out how to count them. So when I provide these exosomes to an individual, we know that they're going to either be getting like 3 trillion, which is a lot, 6 trillion, 9 trillion, 15 trillion, or whatever. So we know what the count is going to be. How an exosome works is it's this vesicle that actually, when your cells are injured, and so you have this injury to the cell, they actually have these markers on the outside that kind of come out. And like, hey, I'm injured, I need some help. And either your immune system is going to just kind of get rid of that cell, or they're just going to be half functioning. And so when they have that marker out there, the exosome circles around and it's like, oh, and it gets sucked up inside the cell. And so the cell, you have a nucleus, which is where all your chromosomes, it's what makes men men and women women, and you have all these chromosomes in there. So that's your nucleus. Then outside of that, it's called the cytoplasm. And that cytoplasm is like the engine. That's where everything's happening. That's where mitochondria are. That's where like you have these ribosomes, all these things. So those exosomes go inside and they actually just start repairing from the inside out. And so they make that cell healthy again. And then as that cell divides, it is a healthier cell now. Does that make sense?
Totally.
So that's how the exosomes work. So, and it's all about numbers. So the more numbers of stems or exosomes that you're putting into the body, it can fix your kidneys, and then it goes on to do something else. And they cycle for about 3 weeks, and you're going to get about 3 months of longevity out of that. So
it's interesting. So I read a book probably 2 years ago by Tony Robbins called Life Force. And in that book, he was listing a lot of functional medicine is really kind of exploding right now because people are getting. Well,
people, I think since COVID, people they woke up in the right way.
Yes,
you know
100%,
what I'm saying, right?
100%.
Yep.
And so, but in the book, it almost sounded not affordable. Like I think he was saying $30,000.
Yeah.
But I'll just be really upfront. You know, I've done 6 months. Every 6 months, I go in with you.
Yeah.
And for a very, very reasonable price, I've been doing exosome therapy with you, and I think I'm doing 3 trillion. I feel like it's
You're doing
3
3 trillion. Yeah. So when you look at the the numbers of stem cells. Now, exosomes are in the stem cells, right? So when you do a stem cell, you're doing like the million count is what you're getting, right? And so you don't really know how many exosomes you're getting. With these exosomes, I've been doing this now for however many years I've been doing them. I'm seeing results that are just amazing. And the results that'll happen that you don't really understand, right? Like I had a woman who had some eye issues. She had like macular degeneration or retinal detachment or something like that. And her vision was never the same since she had a procedure done. So we were doing the stem cells for that. Well, I did a big dose of the stem cells, and I was like, how are your eyes? And she's like, well, the eyes haven't changed, but I have no hand pain. Like her hand pain. So the exosomes went to where the body needed them. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? And I don't always see that. Like when we're doing it, like I want a certain reaction like you do, but then something else may happen where they're just like, oh, and another side effect for the men is that, you know, a lot of
erection issues.
Well,
like,
I mean, that's
I woke up,
I'm like,
whoa, I feel like I'm 14 again.
I told people, no, it's true. I told that's added benefit. No, it's true,
funny,
man.
I mean, my wife's like, what the heck's going on?
It's true. It's true. It's like, I know. I mean, it's true. But so the biggest thing with the exosomes, you have to make sure you're getting from a trusted source. You know, the ones I use, you know, are, you know, they come from the U.S. They're, you know, and it's a very legit lab that does the research in a very ethical manner.
Well, and if I remember right, I think you said she was 24 years old. We know her name, and she had a baby.
Yes.
And this is all live and legit. I'm a pro-life guy. I'm like, this is. I feel like. So here's another thing I want to talk to you about. So I have people asking me, and you know, they think I'm younger than I am because of my physique and my face. I've lived I haven't done stupid things. Talk about functional medicine and its effects on biological versus chronological age.
Yeah, I think you know, looking at, you know, we can all look to see how our parents age, right? So I think like I'm from Florida. I've got Native American, like, it's part of my heritage, right? And so Native American men, we kind of age like withering trees, right? I mean, I mean, it's real. I mean, I'm sorry, guys.
I got you.
You know what I mean? It's sort of like that, right? And, you know, living in Florida, you know, the sun and all that stuff.
So Seminole?
Yeah, Seminole. Yeah,
Seminole tribe.
Yeah. Good job. Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
You're aware. No, that's good. Not a lot of people know the Seminoles. Like, you're right. Yeah, well, I mean, the football team. But anyways,
And they beat Bama, baby. Come on. Go ahead.
Okay, anyways. So, you know, I think that you look at, like, you know, you want to, I think, you know, aging gracefully is like really important. So a lot of people kind of come in and it's like, okay, so I think a lot of, like, when we're aging, you know, it's all about collagen and it's all about inflammation and how, you know, our body is, I don't know if I'm answering this question properly, but
you're going right in the right direction.
Oh, am I going in the right direction? So a lot of, like, the everything, like, you know, things start to unravel, right? And so they kind of, with all this inflammation and everything like that. And I think that, you know, when we're aging, you know, the biggest thing is being proactive and making sure that we're sustaining the level of health at the level that we're living. And so that means that you have to put more work into it and be more proactive. Yes. Do you know what I'm saying? So, and I think that as a 53-year-old man, you know, in my 40s, like at 50, I feel better than I did in my 40s. I think a little bit it's wisdom and understanding, and there's a lot of things that go into that. But you have to work at it, and it's a journey, and you can't just give up. And I think when we were talking testosterone, what I was talking earlier is that testosterone didn't change everything, but what it did do is when my levels were so low, is it gave me the clarity to make the changes I needed as a man, and the energy to do it. And I just felt,
and the drive.
I felt like I woke up, Jim, and I felt like my sleep was better. But the biggest thing for me that I noticed is I was looking at the world through a different lens. Like, I felt more positive, and I felt like my moods were more stable. I wasn't grumpy and I wasn't, you know, I hate to admit this, but I think when I had a lot of stress, I would just throw more on, thinking that it would get better. And I think it was just, I don't know how many of you out there do the same thing, but it was just like more is better. And I realized, like, and so I would start getting fat, and I would get a trainer, and you know what I mean? And I realized, like, no, I got to, like, I need something else in my life, my spirituality. I need, you know what I'm saying? Like it's a holistic medicine. And I needed to figure that out. And testosterone allowed me to get there. And I think testosterone is one thing, but then it opened the avenue to learning about peptides, nutrition, and understanding nutrition. And I learned to listen more to people. I just didn't, I mean, I'm talking here just because you're supposed to talk, right? Okay. But I learned to listen more and not talk as much and just kind of be more present, live it in today and not too far in the future, or definitely not the past. You know what I mean? And that's the way we should feel as men. You know, I think we should feel that way. And I think we need to feel that, like, you're not going to have all the answers.
Yeah.
You need people that can kind of help you, you know, and you need to listen. And I'm telling you, the biggest conversation I have with a lot of men is their alcohol consumption. I think that people don't I mean, seriously, like, it's a lot of things that people will, it makes them feel good. And it's a legal thing that a lot of people will do. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's a slippery slope. And I think it starts having an impact. And the reason that they do that is because they don't feel good. It's not necessarily because they're an alcoholic, you know, maybe they are, but most of the time it's because they're just trying to take something to feel better as a human being.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
100%.
And so, and there's better ways to do that. And so if you kind of fix these things over here, you actually realize you don't need these things over here.
Well, the thing about your practice of functional medicine that I appreciate is it acknowledges that we're all aging. We eventually will all die.
Yeah.
However, you had a phrase earlier that I just love, the phrase aging gracefully.
Yeah.
I want to be the best version of the man God made me to be.
Yeah.
As long as I can be that version, I want to do things as long as I can do them in a natural, holistic manner, right?
Right.
And I think there are ways to do that don't require a pharmaceutical.
Yep.
Some things, unfortunately, with blood pressure right now, although my meds keep going down and down, sometimes I need to do that.
I'm going to just interject. I'm on a blood pressure medicine.
Yeah, we
talked.
Yeah.
I'm okay. I'm transparent. Like, I run at a very high clip, and sometimes I'm dehydrated. I don't drink enough water like I should. Water is important for blood pressure, right? And so I don't want to have a stroke. You know what I mean? And sometimes the medicine is there, and it's there for a reason. And God gave us the medicine for a reason. We just don't need to use it for, you know. I mean, it's just not the answer to everything, but it's important.
I agree.
Right.
So let's one last question.
Okay.
So I'm hearing this. A lot of these words are words I hadn't heard 5 years ago. A lot of these I hadn't touched till 2 or 3 years ago. But let's talk about, we talked about exosomes in healing. We've talked about peptides in healing. Let's talk about PRP in healing. Okay. What is PRP, and how does that promote healing?
So PRP stands for platelet-rich plasma. Okay, so your blood, it comes from your blood. So you take a person's blood, their own blood, and there's a special extraction process that happens. So you spin it down with a special centrifuge, a certain RPM, and that extracts the platelet-rich portion off of it. So in your blood, you have platelets that are sticky. Okay, so that's kind of when you have an injury, those platelets stick and they kind of slow down bleeding, but you also have growth factors. So growth factors promote healing. So your blood's a tissue, so you're actually extracting all of those growth factors and the platelets, and you're extracting it off into a small amount. And these growth factors and platelets can help to regenerate tissue. So, there's some doctors that say that, it's not going to regrow a meniscus. And, if you have a meniscal tear, I kind of feel a little bit differently. I think it kind of helps slow down the tear, and I think it can improve it. But if you have a tear in one thing, you probably have laxity in other things. So just because you have a tear, that doesn't necessarily mean that's the sole cause of your knee issues. Yeah. Does that make sense? Yes. You probably have stretched out ligaments in there. And the PRP, what it does is when you inject it into an area, it stimulates the body to actually repair itself. So all those collagen bundles that have unraveled and that are lax, it's going to stimulate those to tighten up, but you're also providing it with a medium to actually regrow the tissue. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I've heard from a dozen different men and women that has changed their life.
Oh, it's huge. It works, and it totally works. There are orthopedists that believe in it. Tiger Woods, like, he's done it. Kobe, when he was around, he did it a ton. The company that I use actually, worked with a lot of famous athletes and whatever. But it totally works. it's something, and if you and then you combine that with the exosomes, and it's even better, So, but it's a very natural process. It's been around for a long time and has a lot of studies, and that you can look up and see. And with this day and age of AI, right? You could type in PRP and show me studies, and it will give you a list of everything you want to know about it. So it's real, and so doctors that refute it shouldn't.
I agree.
I mean, it's an option to surgery, and I have people that come in and I'm like, okay, at some point you're going to need surgery, but they're like, I'm not ready. I'm like, okay, do this, and I've seen them fully function. I mean, I've been doing this 23 years. I've seen 10 years they have no issues now. So, and it works really well. And what not a better way to heal yourself than with your body? Right?
Yes, and your body's made to heal.
Your body's made to heal, right?
So I appreciate this.
Yeah.
So okay. So guys, I know you've got a lot of information. We try to, bring this down to earth a little bit. So, and I know you're overwhelmed. You've got a very, very popular practice.
Yeah.
I'm afraid of sending people your way because but okay, let's just do it this way. If somebody's listening and they've been involved in traditional medicine all their life, and they're like, I want to try this functional medicine, what would you say their first step is?
I think the first step is find a doctor that will do an assessment and just look at their blood work. I mean, that's number one. I mean, I think you need to look to see where you're at, and so so they can kind of look at that. I mean, the biggest thing is making sure that the person who you're going to see as a physician, they're treating you as an individual, and not the same way they're going to treat the person before. Does that make sense?
Well, here's the confusing part. So you said go see your doctor. Okay,
or see a doctor.
But what kind of doctor? What are we looking for?
So,
when I Google that.
So when a functional medicine physician.
Is that if I Google that, that'll pop up?
Functional medicine physician, yeah. So that's the type of doctor that you want.
Okay.
Functional medicine is the term, I think, and if they do if peptides is part of their jam, look to see what they do, right? So if they do peptides and they're a functional medicine doctor, they're going to be more likely to be able to assess you in the right way. If they're just a men's clinic doing hormones, don't waste your time. Sorry. I mean, I think that's...
How will that show up in the
Well,
search?
you just don't know necessarily. I'm not saying don't waste your time, and I don't want to any hormone doctors out there that are just been doing that. It's fine.
They're moaning now, buddy.
I know. I shouldn't have said we can cut that out, but it's okay. But I think that because testosterone's important, but it's way bigger than that. So you know what I'm saying? So you just need to make sure that that the person that's doing it is actually more or less. So functional medicine physician, if they have peptides, that they're actually really looking for the future, because peptides are the future. I mean, that's right. Right now, the direction that we're kind of moving in medicine, we're moving in this direction of peptides. And I mean, it's just and it's not going away. I mean, it's been there, but now it's exposed. And patients who weren't believers are now believers. And my patients that come in and see me that are used to the conventional medicine realm, which I respect, I've started doing peptides with them, and they're just like, why is this not mainstream? You know what I mean? So so I think if people are doing peptides, that you're gonna be with somebody who's definitely educated. So functional medicine, if they do peptides, that's really good.
And I think I've tried 3 different types of peptides.
Yeah. GLP, BPC,
and Semorlin.
Yeah, Semorlin's great. So my 4 favorite ones are GLP number 1, BPC number 2, Semorlin number 3, and then TB500. I'm just starting. I'm kind of mixing it with the BPC and the.
What's that? What is that?
TB500 is more of an immune modulator, so it kind of helps with long-term inflammation. BPC is more repair, and the TB500 kind of helps modulate your immune system more. So I found that if you use the TB500 with the BPC, it kind of makes this super peptide.
The other thing that we've done is when we have a long trip that we're going on with a lot of traveling, we'll come in and get a vitamin B injection as well for immunity.
Yep. Try immune injections. We do a lot of. I think that's probably what you get. Yeah. And right now with COVID, now, I mean, this is an interesting thing too, Jim. It's in the summer, who got sick in the summer? I mean, people are getting COVID now in the summer. You know what I mean? Every July and August now, I have people.
COVID seems to thrive in the summer for some reason.
It's weird. It is weird. and you're outside.
I don't understand it.
Yeah.
I don't really.
Maybe we need to go back indoors. Maybe maybe indoors in a mask is going to solve the problem.
I mean, I personally,
maybe
that's
to
me is the same as a head cold. So
listen, we can go down that route.
We can go down that
route, but which we're not going to do.
Okay, so if people have questions, we may have to take this out of the podcast. I don't know how this is going to play out, so it's okay. If people have questions, is there a way to reach out to you, or should we have them just find a functional medicine?
No. They can reach out. No, they can reach out to me. Yeah, let's go. Office email info@afamilyhealingcenter, afamilyhealingcenter.com.
info@afamilyhealingcenter.com, and make sure in the memo you say Men in the Arena podcast question.
That's great.
Okay. Make sure in the memo you say Men in the Arena podcast question, and Dr. Black has a whole portal and team, and they'll get back to you.
Yeah.
Other than that, go to your local area, look for a functional medicine doctor. Hey, thanks a lot.
That's great, Jen.
So fun being here. I appreciate what your practice has done for my wife and for myself, and actually our marriage.
Yeah.
And so appreciate what you're doing, and I look forward to more to come.
I appreciate you too.
Thanks, bud. Appreciate it, man. If you enjoyed today's episode with Dr. Jason, you are not yet a subscriber, I want to invite you to subscribe to this podcast. It'll help us move up in the charts. It'll help us hit #1 on iTunes, and it'll help impact more men for Christ. Until next time, feel the wet sand on the arena floor. Hear the deafening roar of the crowd. Taste the sweetness of victory. Smell the stench of battle. Get in the game. Get dirty. Grind it out. Take care of your body. And be a man.